next item is a resolution related to U.S. Bicycle Route 1. So U.S. Bike Route 1 is a long-distance on-road bike touring route. So it's a route that is intended for folks that are like serious long-distance kind of bike riders. And it runs through multiple states. The North Carolina section of the route was designated back in 1982 and hasn't really changed a whole lot since then. As part of some discussions we were having related to a STIP project, U5975, which is going to be doing super street improvements on US 1 in the tramway area, the discussion came up about potentially rerouting a section of US Bike Route 1 to avoid that area. For any folks who aren't familiar, the tramway area is kind of congested, and US 1 is obviously a pretty high volume facility, and there's actually a short segment of US Bike Route 1 that has to travel along US 1 to connect between two roads. And so the idea was to try to reroute it to avoid that area, especially since once the super street improvements go in, it would actually make it even more difficult for a bike to navigate, and have it cross US 1 at a better location. And so as a result of that, I put together a couple of potential alternative routes for us to look at, which I called A, B, C, and D. You can see them on the map on the screen. So the red line on the map on the screen is the current route. And you can see that black box is the project area for super street improvements. And all of the proposed alternatives would avoid that area by crossing US 1 further north at a grade separated location. So I did a little bit of analysis work on each of the options. You have a document in your packet that goes into a little more detail on this, but kind of compared things like length, how much elevation change there was, traffic volumes were, whether there were segments that were traveling along higher volume, higher traffic segments of the road, and then how many of sort of more complex intersections the route had to go through. And so compared all those options as well as comparing them to the existing. And long story short, it came out looking like option B was probably the best option. It actually scored the best in terms of the traffic volumes. It doesn't have any segments that use high volume roads. It only has two, what I consider more complex intersections, as compared to, as many as 7 on a couple of options. And then on the length and elevation change, it came in second, but it's really pretty close to the first place option as well. So that's where we're at today. What I've done is I've drafted up a resolution, and what would need to happen is, because this is a official route that was designated at the national level, we basically have to make a request to NCDOT, and then NCDOT will then have to turn around and submit a request to the national level to change to the route. So the resolution requests that NCDOT get that. Any questions? And then the other thing that we need to work on is, I hate to say it, but thinking about developing your list of projects for P7. Got a year, but I think it's time to start thinking about it. Typically, the way we have done this in the past, we will set up a subcommittee that'll come up with some rules, sort of put some guardrails on the process for submittals, and then based on those rules, we will then turn it around to counties and say to each county, work with your municipalities and come up with a list of X number of projects that you want to submit, and then we'll bring those back for consideration when it's time for the PCC and TAC to approve things next spring or summer. So typically in the past we have done that sometime in the winter, that we've set up that subcommittee and started that process. So there's still a lot of time to work out those details, but especially for jurisdictions that have any interest in submitting some bike and ped projects, if they are projects that you haven't done a whole lot of sort of engineering work on yet and don't have a good handle on the cost estimates, I really suggest you take this year, you have some time, really get a good handle on what those projects are specifically, and a good idea of the cost estimate, because just based on past experience, that is the number one issue we run into on bike and ped projects. Just not having a good handle on what the project is specifically and how much it's going to cost. So that is all I have.